Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Dave from the Kodo back with another experiment slash tutorial here for you. As you can see in the background, I have a bunch of big reactors set up, and what I'm going to do today is figure out what is the best coolant, which we probably know is the cryothium or I don't know how to say it, gelid cryothium. But I wanted to test some other things out just to see how they react and how good they do cooling on these reactors, because the gelid cryothium takes a little bit to make or farm up, and there are other obviously options that you can use to cool your reactors during the early game phases that might be more beneficial than just having nothing. So I have my control one here that has nothing. Every one of these is 5 by 5 by 5, so there's there's a pillar of 3 in the middle. I've put 2 stacks of yellorium into each one, and then the power will just be dumping out into a creative bank, which is whatever, that just gets rid of the power. We're looking at how much it's generating while it's on. Obviously I have my control on, it has nothing. I have water, I have liquid redstone, what's the actual name of that? Destabilized redstone. I have the gelid cryothium. I decided to throw some other ones in there too. So I've got honey, which you can get relatively early game if you're messing with the bees right off the bat. Energized glowstone, which is just the broken down glowstone, which could be technically relatively easy to get. It's probably easier to get. The easiest is obviously water or nothing, and then redstone's the next one. But I decided to throw, like I said, some other ones in there. I've got oil, I've got the resonant ender, I've got milk, and then this one is fluid yellorium. I'm curious as to how that one will react inside of the reactor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn these all on, and we're going to look at the numbers. So once they get all heated up here, this is going to stabilize at around 560 RF per tick, and the two things we're looking at are the RF per tick as well as the millibuckets per tick, because this is how much it's burning because it's not cooled. So this is going to cause your yellorium to burn quicker, so in the long run you're not going to get a ton of RF out if you're burning it without getting the results. So about 555 is where the control reactor is sitting around 550. I think it's going to stay right there. This is burning through it pretty quick. So let's turn on the water. We'll let that get going. We've got destabilized redstone. We're going to let these all just kind of fire up, turn on, and let the coolant that is in there do its job. Now with all of these, I just did a top layer except for a couple. So like, it's flowing down. There's only a top layer. It's not completely full. Certain ones you have to do an entire thing. Like this one, the glowstone, I have to do all the blocks, which could affect it. Honey doesn't flow. It just kind of sits there. So that's all of the blocks. Obviously, gelid cryothium, this one reacts kind of like yellow or the glowstone, where it flows down into one block. It doesn't continue to flow. So that's completely full. All the other ones are just at the top and flowing down. In previous tests, I noticed that it didn't really make a difference if you filled the entire thing. It was such a minimal amount that you could do it, but it wasn't that big of a deal. So let's look here. So water, we are at 545. So I'm going to put these all on the screen as I'm saying them, hopefully, if I remember to do that correctly. So 550 at 0.63 water, 555 at 0.67, so it's a little bit better. It's gonna probably stay right there. 560, it's a little bit better than nothing, obviously. The destabilized redstone, this is actually making more than this can pump out, at 1.24 kerf, which is a higher level than RF per tick. This is like 1,000. And burning at about 0.65. This one, the gelid cryothium, which I'm assuming is going to be the best, is 1.38 kerf. We've got the honey bucket, pretty close to water, which I assumed all the odd fluids are going to be pretty close to water that are not specifically designed for cooling. Glowstone is actually pretty decent right there. It's almost an entire 1000 RF, which that surprises me. So 980. That one's not too bad. Oil, 563. Like I said, these are going to probably be close to water just because they're not designed for cooling. This is the resonant ender. It's 1.4. Is that more? 1.42. Resonant ender, 1.4. But look at the difficulty on making these things as well. 560 for the milk, and for the fluid yellorium, about 560. So like I said, the ones that are not designed for cooling are going to be pretty close to water. I assume it's because the internal properties are basically the same. So let's look at these two that were the best. What did redstone? 1.2 versus 1.3. Like I said, destabilized redstone is relatively easy to make. Redstone in a magma crucible will get you destabilized redstone. Gelid cryothium, which is in our experiment here, the best. 1.34 at 0.62 buckets. This is 144. Wow. This resonant ender is better. At it's 0.61. This resonant ender is better, that's very surprising to me because I assumed this one would be the best. So gelid cryothium, you need to have cryothium dust, which is these guys all together. The blizz powder, if you can get a blizz right away into an auto spawner, you can pound these out like crazy, and it's great. And you can make this, and it's pretty simple. But the resonant ender, which is just ender pearls in a magma crucible, seems to be pretty easy to get, depending on if you've gone to the end early game, or if you have an Enderman spawner. I mean, you can get the auto spawners pretty early game. They're not difficult, and then you can make a ton of this. So 134. See, this is going to fluctuate. 135. So these two in this experiment are almost identical. Like 145. That one keeps fluctuating up and down. So these two are going to be almost identical, and the resonant ender is, give or take how you're getting the ender pearls, I would say this is a lot easier to make than this. You can make the gelid cryothium without having a blizz spawner, but it's just easier if you have a spawner. And if you have a spawner with a blizz in it and you're running it, you might as well go with the resonant ender, because then you can just spawn enderman, get the ender pearls, and use that, and you're using one item versus, like I said here, the 4 items you'll need for this. You're going to need niter or saltpeter, plus the blizz powder, which you get from the blizz, and then redstone and snowball. So this is very surprising to me. In terms of efficiency, the resonant ender and the gelid cryothium are going to be very, very close to identical. 0.63, 8 millibuckets, 0.67. So this I would say this one is better. I like that. And this is a lot easier to get or make materials wise than this guy is, because the blizzes are a little bit difficult to find. They spawn in taiga biomes only. Other places too, but mainly in taiga biomes, and they're kind of rare of a spawn. So in this test, like I said, I'm gonna do a recap video, or a recap at the end of this video once I have all the numbers written down. Gelid cryothium and resonant ender are the two top cooling agents, with resonant ender being probably the easier one to get, because you still need to use a magma crucible for the cryothium dust. Materials wise, this one's better. So let me gather up all these numbers. I'll put them on the screen, and we'll do a quick recap. All right, so quick recap here. What we're looking at is on the left-hand side, these are all the basic water substitutes. Water being 550 to 565-ish. It's water, yellorium, milk, oil, and honey. The control sitting at about 550. These are averages, so don't take these as hard numbers. These are approximately what I saw while I was testing. The millibuckets is how much you're burning up or how much you're getting per tick, that kind of thing. So that's something you need to keep in mind, because if you're burning more than you're getting out of it, then you're just wasting fuel. If that's not a concern to you, then it doesn't matter. And if you have unlimited supply of yellorium, then you're good. In the middle column, we have obviously the left-hand column there's stuff that's pretty easy to get a hold of early game. So in the case of oil or honey, where you need to, or even yellorium, where you need to do a little bit of work to get those, they're not going to be much more beneficial to you than just using nothing, water or milk. So those two things would be easier to get than the other three. So they're around in the same category, which was not a surprise to me. The middle column is the ones that are pretty decent. Their burn rate is the best out of the subset. It's the destabilized redstone and glowstone, both of which are gotten inside of the magma crucible. 1160 for redstone, 1030-ish for glowstone. The glowstone surprised me. I didn't think that was going to be a very good coolant, but it turned out pretty decent. Those ones are a little bit still easy to get early game, redstone and glowstone. And magma crucible is not hard to build, so those are pretty. I would go with those if you're going early game build, redstone or glowstone. Redstone being slightly better than the glowstone. So the last column is the cream of the crop. These are the ones that you're going to go end game. You're going to be making a huge reactor. You want to cool the crap out of it and get the most out of it. Now, I was surprised by this. I thought the cryothium was going to be the absolute best and nothing was going to touch it, but Resonant Ender, like I said, these are averages. Cryothium may put out more than 1330. Resonant Ender may put out less than 1440, but when in the testing that I was doing, these were the most per tick. Their burn rate isn't great. You're burning up a lot of fuel to get that much out of it. But in the long run, I feel like if you're going at this level of cooling and you have the resources to get these, definitely go with the Resonant Ender being the easier one to get. And that's even early to mid-game materials that you need for that. A spawner, you're going to need the magma crucible if you're doing redstone or glowstone anyway, so get an ender spawner, get those ender pearls burned up, melt it up, and then use those as a coolant. And I personally am going to be switching over all of my big reactors in my LPs and single-player games to the Resonant Ender to get that advantage out of it. Once you're in the end game and you have a lot of yellorium coming in, you're ender quarrying, you're turtling, maybe even using bees to get the yellorium. It doesn't matter that you're burning up a lot of it to put out a ton of redstone flux, the RF. But like I said, Resonant Ender was a surprise to me, and it's material cost the better option to go with over cryothium. So hopefully it's a little bit of a recap on what we saw. So thank you for tuning in, guys, for another tutorial / experiment here with the big reactors and what is the best / easiest coolant to get. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any suggestions on different liquids you'd like me to try, or ones that you found work a little bit better and are insanely easier to get than possibly ender pearls, let me know. Like I said, I'm very surprised about the gelid cryothium and the Resonant Ender being almost on par with each other. So, like always, guys, check out my channel for more tutorials, LPs, gameplays, that kind of thing, tips, tricks, all of the like. And like always, good luck and have fun.